Good evening, and welcome to the live stream of Traveling on Everyday Spend. Thank you for coming, and just want to get a few housekeeping items out of the way. This is live. It's being recorded. At the conclusion of the live stream, I'll make sure to add chapters to make it easier for people to be able to view it. I also want to thank you for watching this live stream and all of the videos that we've been producing. Really hope that it's been beneficial to you in your points and miles journey. And if you do find any of the information beneficial or in this live stream or any of the videos, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It really does mean a lot to me in this channel, and I thank you in advance. And so I want to make sure to value your time and your time rather. So we will go ahead and get started. Let me get here on the screen. All right. So we got a few things to cover tonight. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the credit card offers. Nothing really new, but really more reminders as the things are about to end like we did last week. We're also going to talk about the Citi the Advantage Platinum Select credit card by Citi. We're going to look at a promotion that ends tonight, actually, the Virgin Atlantic 50% off award flights between the UK and US. That was a 1 week promotion that I found out about at the end of the live stream last week. But not necessarily all it's cracked up to be that we'll go over. We're also going to look at another promotion, which is the Singapore Spontaneous Escapes. And then we're going to look at a couple of transfer bonuses that came out. And we're going to talk about Bilt as it's lost American Airlines, but now it appears they're going to have Alaska Airlines. So we'll talk about that, of what that really means and how similar the two programs are. And then lastly, we're going to look at the Alaska Airlines personal credit card, because there is a Bilt credit card factor or Bilt rewards factor that's in that we do need to discuss, so that anybody that's paying rent is something to consider. And obviously, if there's any questions along the way, we will cover those. So let's get started. So topic one is the credit card offers that we have. And as far as American Express, we nothing new. The Delta credit cards are going to end within the next week. And if you go back to my live stream from March 1, I'll make sure I go over all of those credit cards and the details about them and what makes each of them different, and what, depending upon how often you fly with Delta, what may make sense for you. So I will make sure to put a link in the pinned comment for that after the program, but that is one to consider. The Marriott credit cards through American Express, we obviously have the business credit card as well as one of the personal credit cards that we have the promotion still going on with that. In the March 7th live stream, I did a very detailed breakdown of the Bonvoy program, the benefits, as well as looking at each of those credit cards and being able to factor in the guidelines that American Express has, restrictions that they have in there, to kind of determine what your best path may be for those credit cards. And then lastly is the Hilton credit cards that we talked about last week. And once again, I went over those credit cards in some detail, and please feel free to look at that. And I'll have links for all three of those live streams in the pinned comment afterwards, to make it as easy as possible for you. And then as far as Chase, we are down to the IHG credit cards that we touched base on the March 1st live stream. I have the business version of the Premier card. Very good points for the intro bonus. And as I feel about almost any hotel or airline credit card, they're not daily drivers. They're basically going to get me something for free that should cover the cost of the credit card. Normally they're $95, $99, and you're getting a room, let alone potentially status for that. And so something to look at if you are interested in looking at anything related to IHG. And then, of course, we have the Marriott Bonvoy Boundless and the Bountiful credit cards that have their best offer available. We just don't know when date that ends. So definitely, if you're even considering anything with Marriott, to make sure to go ahead and look at the live stream, do the comparison, and find what's best for you, so that hopefully it's going to be something that gets you a really great vacation, whether it be the certificates or if it's the high point value on a couple of those credit cards. And so now we will move on to the Citi Advantage Platinum Select World Elite MasterCard, if that's a lot to say. The reason I'm picking this card to kind of look at is because of the fact that with American Airlines ending their relationship shortly with Bilt, we're going to be back to, at least for a period of time, where there are no transfer partners for American Airlines. So, as you may or may not be looking at what you might do with some of those Bilt points, and if American Airlines is an avenue you want to look at, then you want to be able to see how can you supplement those points. And so this credit card, if you're going to look at one, might be one that fits very well for the casual flyer of American Airlines, and based upon the points in the annual fee, may work out for you. So right now it has a limited time offer of 75,000 American Airline points for $3,500 worth of spend in the first 4 months. So it is a very low barrier to entry for that credit card, at less than $1,000 spend in a single month over that 4 month period. And as we look at what the points guy values American Airline points, we're seeing that that value of 75,000 points is over $1,000. And in some cases, it can definitely exceed it. So the reason I look at this card is you won't have an annual fee for the first 12 months. So not until next year will you have an annual fee, and it would be normally $99. But to be able to get those points in, and being able to evaluate if you really want it or need it at no cost to you, makes it basically, other than a couple things we'll touch on, might be very good in your case. As far as the benefits, you get 2x on the restaurants, gas stations, and American Airlines purchases, 1x on all other purchases. And you do, of course, no foreign transaction fees, which are common with airline credit cards. And the first check bag is free, which is pretty common also on your starter and up airline credit cards. As I've talked about before, these benefit numbers are not something I'm going to normally spend on. This is only for the case of being able to get that required spend. After that, I don't see any reason why you would use this to do any of those regular benefit purchases, because you won't get the value of it compared to a regular flexible credit card, or flexible point value ones such as Citi, Chase, Capital One, American Express. So that the benefits normally will not matter that much. We're basically looking at this for the points that we would be able to get. And the first checked bag free is a nice situation, because we did talk about how these airlines are already raising the prices of their checked bags, and people that have these credit cards will be able to benefit from it. As far as what to consider, there are a couple of things to consider. One, is it the right time? And I say that because of the fact that, if depending on where you're at in your journey, we've still got Chase 524, we've got Capital One 624, as I would call it, and you're going to have some issues if this card fits the timing for you. So if you're early in the game and you have space, and you know that there's something you're going to use American Airlines for, then it may be the right spot for you. But if you're close to 524 with aspirations of getting other credit cards from whoever it may be, even with this point increase, it may not be the right time for you. So definitely give some consideration to it. And then the 75,000 points, what's the plan in going forward? Right now, Bill, we don't have a transfer partner for American Airlines. So there's not some place to kind of combine those points and to be able to use those. So unless you have a stash of American Airline points available to you to add these points to for a trip that you may be looking at, it still may not be the right time for you. Now, there's probably good expectations that sooner than later at least, that we may see American Airlines join with Citi because they do their co-branded credit card and actually become a full-fledged transfer partner. But we don't know if that's going to be the case yet. So I don't want you to end up getting this and be stranded with 75,000 points, which may or may not be enough to do what you may be wanting to do, but not necessarily have an avenue of being able to put more points with it. So definitely give full consideration to that. And we do have a question. The Hilton Aspire card versus the American Express Platinum card, which would you recommend for airline ticket purchase based on insurance coverage and benefits? So it's a very good question. There's a video I'll have coming out in the next week or two, but there's a few things to keep in mind with the Aspire and the Platinum card. The Aspire card, when we're looking at insurance coverage and benefits, it's going to first begin with the fact of, are you paying with points or are you paying with that credit card? Because a lot of people may not know that if you pay with points, then the insurance coverages that come with it and the benefits of trip interruption and baggage loss and delay, they don't come into play. So those benefits will not even work for you. And that is something that I've had to learn because I normally use points for almost all my flights. So those benefits don't end up unfortunately benefiting me. So you would need to first begin with that of, if you expect to be paying for your airfare, then that's when it begins. But if you don't intend on doing it, then those coverages will not mean that much. As far as their coverages, they're very similar. I think the biggest thing that will distinguish one versus the other is simply the fact of, if you believe that you're going to use that Hilton credit card and use that one free night, that is what really makes it overpowered. Now, they did make some changes to the Hilton Aspire that made it more valuable. It's a very overpowered card as far as for the fee versus what you get for it. But you've got to be able to determine if you're going to fully utilize that one free night that you get that's not capped. And the other thing that you have to factor in is that while it sounds great to be able to have a one night for free with no limit, essentially, so you could go to the Maldives, you can go to Bora Bora, and get enormous value from it. But that's only one night. Are you going to be at that location more nights? Are you prepared to pay with the necessary points or cash that is needed? So I'm a person that has gotten swept up sometimes when thinking about these credit cards, such as an Aspire that has that. So definitely something to keep in mind. But as far as the insurance coverage and benefits, I think that if that was the main reason that you're going to consider either of the two cards, it's probably going to be the American Express Platinum versus the Aspire, because there are still many other benefits that you get from it as a travel card. I think the Aspire is really more viewed as the keeper card that you have, but that it's a nice sidekick, I'll call it. That Platinum, being able to get to the lounges and the different purchase and other insurances are going to be better, and there's enough to try to bring that credit cost down. So it's a very so that's the thing I would basically look at that. So keep those things in mind, and I hope that helped answer the question. So now let's look at the Virgin Atlantic promotion that ends tonight between the UK and US. Um, the reason I put it out here is not necessarily because I think that this is something that everybody needs to know right now to try to take advantage of this. It may work for a few people, but this is really more to make sure that you are aware of what may sound good, there are some devil in the details. So as far as what's going on, there's a 50% off award flights, not paid, but award flights that ends tonight. It applies to all three levels of economy, premium economy, and business. And normally you'll see 20 to 30% discounts. This is going to be obviously at 50%, but the travel must take place by June 30th. So you must reserve by tonight, and you must do the travel by June 30th. So here's a few of the issues that to look at, because this does sound like an excellent deal if it fits your time frame of when you may be going to London or coming to the United States. But taxes and fuel charges are significant when we're dealing with Virgin, British Airways. When you're going into London, you are going to get hit with the taxes and fuel surcharges. And for that, for a round trip for business, you could be anywhere from $1,300 to $2,000 above and beyond the price of the ticket. Premium economy, 5 to 700, and then economy, slightly less than that. So you definitely have to factor those costs in when you're doing something like this, and when you're going to be flying Virgin or British Airways into London, into the UK rather. And the short duration. This program ending in the end of June does not include couple of the prime months of July and August in the summer for the UK. So that's something to factor in as well. And then, as I talk about it, keep in mind, you always need to make sure of what the fuel surcharges are and if they apply. It's a big deal. It can really absolutely eliminate any of the benefit that you got from getting that fare or that promotional discount, because the fuel surcharges can absolutely eat it up. Some of the airlines that either don't have fuel surcharges or very limited would be Air Canada, Alaska Airlines, American, in some cases, Avianca, Delta, Singapore Airlines, and United. So those are ones that when you're going to England, those might be one, or the UK, those are ones that you might want to look at if you find that the fuel surcharges are too high, and you're not getting the benefit of any discounted price through Virgin Airways or British Airways, Virgin Airlines, and British Airways. So, but it ends tonight. I'll put a link as well at the end of the show, but I don't think that this is probably going to be a good one to be considered for most people. And so now we'll take a look at another promotion that's going on that doesn't end tonight. So there is time if you want to take advantage of this. But the devil's in the details with this program as well. And this is the Singapore Spontaneous Escapes. So this is the Singapore Spontaneous Escapes are I think it ends up being monthly, that they do programs, and it's around the world. But here in the Americas, in the United States, it has one promotion, and it is JFK in New York City to Frankfurt, Germany. Economy at 17,500 points each way, and business class 56,400 points miles each way. Travel must occur in the month of April, though. And that's part of these spontaneous escapes, is that it's a quick turnaround that next month. The prices, as far as the miles, they are pretty good. But here's the issues with this. Again, it is non-refundable and it's non-changeable. So you really are taking away any options if anything changes in your life or anything at all. And I definitely really stay away from things that are that restrictive, even if it appears to be a good deal, because life happens and you just never know. And that's why I say in the keep in mind that Aeroplan would be an option on this on a regular basis. You could do the same business class through Aeroplan's points at nearly about 60,000 points. So not in business, so you're not much higher, but you have the option of canceling. The cancellation fee is $111, but you do have the option of canceling. So Once again, these pop up every now, I think every month they come up. They don't get too much publication, don't get publicized too much because of these restrictions. But I wanted to share it with you so that you could see what something looks like and to be able to kind of ask yourself the questions of, is this right for me and why or why not? So, but I just wanted to kind of provide that to everybody so that you could be able to see that, and hopefully it ends up providing some assistance and helps. So topic 5, we're gonna look at, there's a couple of transfer bonuses that are going on with a couple of very interesting, very versatile, I guess is the better word, very versatile programs, and that is Air France KLM Flying Blue, as well as Avianca Life Miles. So the Air France KLM Flying Blue, that is being ran through Chase. And so they are offering 25% transfer bonus through April 30th of 2024. Um, Flying Blue has some really good sweet spots. They do promo awards, which will be up to 50% off of normal award rates for select routes for a few months or so. Those points can really get down. I was actually looking at um, what a flight would look like flying out of Atlanta to Paris and taking Air France KLM Flying Blue. You could fly economy there for 20,000 points each way, which is ridiculous. There is taxes that you do need to pay. I think it was around I'm sorry, about $170, I think it was. And then if you wanted to move up to premium economy, you could do that for 35,000 points each way. And that would put you at the 70,000 round trip, which is still a great number. The taxes do go up. I want to say it was around $400 round trip, but those are great deals that are out there related to that, and that's before you would potentially look at a transfer bonus, bringing that number even down further. Um, Flying to Amsterdam and, as I mentioned, Paris and other areas of Europe normally have some good spots there, and then the Caribbean and Europe can be as few as 25,000 points on economy, 70,000 points in business. So very good sweet spots. Um, they have an excellent number of partners with American Express, Bilt, Capital One, as well as Citi. And that becomes a big deal for when I definitely believe in diversifying where your points are at. Now, I don't get credit cards with, like, let's say, Citi, but I have no idea when I would ever use them. I do want there to be a purpose for everything. So I do have points in pretty much all of those areas except for Bilt. And that allows you to be able to quickly pull together numbers when you need them, as opposed to just being stuck with one. And that is the beauty of Air France KLM, to be able to use that when you have multiple providers to be able to do that. In the past, we've seen where Bilt, especially as they've really been ramping up these rent days, we've seen already a couple of times where, depending upon what tier you have with Bilt, you could have gotten between 75 and 150% on the transfer bonus. So 25% is a pretty common transfer bonus for most of the issuers not that are not Bilt. But because Bilt has been starting to do this, and we don't know if it'll stop, but right now it does appear that this seems to be pretty consistent. And they pick an airline pretty much each month, so we don't know what it's going to be for this upcoming month yet. Haven't seen an announcement on that. So as I mentioned, 25% is a common transfer amount. So what I would always recommend to people when you're talking about transferring points from a flexible currency such as Chase and moving it to something that is restricted, such as Flying Blue, have a plan for it. There is not, when you're dealing with 20, 25, 30%, these points values are not high enough to try to speculate. And they will come back again. So even if you're not ready to be able to take advantage of this, something will come back by later, but you don't want to end up transferring points on a speculation. And I got to be honest, I there was a almost a unicorn type of I forget what it even was now. Last year, there was some type of flight that was so ridiculously low that it didn't make sense. So I actually moved points to Air France to Flying Blue, and before I could get anything finished, the airline that program cut everything, stopped the whole thing, and and now if you had already moved your points and made the purchase, you got the points refunded back to you. But if you put the points into your account but never made the purchase, then you're stuck. And so that is what happened to me. So I've got 50 some odd thousand points there in Air France KLM Flying Blue right now that was not intended to be there. Well, it was intended to buy something, but I didn't end up doing it. So don't make the mistake I did. But I'll get some value out of that soon. There'll be something I'll be able to use it for probably within the next year. But definitely don't speculate. And the other one is with Citi, and it is twice once again a 25% transfer bonus to Avianca. And as you may have seen in a previous video, I talked about Avianca, which I had never heard of before, is actually the airline for Colombia. But what makes Avianca special is they are very versatile on how you can be, if you can find spaces to be able to use Avianca Life Miles. And so this 25% transfer bonus runs through April 14th of 2024. And so as far as a few of the sweet spots for Avianca, being able to fly Swiss Air in business class to Zurich, 63,000 miles round trip, and only $61 in taxes. And as I mentioned, Avianca does not charge fuel surcharges. So that, along with these deep discount in points, make it a very good program. Transcontinental business class in the United States, say from New York to LA or San Francisco, flying United Polaris, which is their business class, 25,000 points or 25,000 miles each way. Once again, can't beat that type of redemption. Now, of course, all sweet spots and all redemptions are limited. That's why they're sweet spots. But if you've got some flexibility, if you have the time to be able to accommodate it, it can be really good for you. And then the last one, which is really not an easy one to be able to pull, is Lufthansa first class without surcharges to Europe for 87,000 miles. Once again, very hard to get, but it is still worth talking about as a sweet spot. So as I mentioned, Avianca is very versatile. And once again, we have multiple um, sources to be able to put those together. American Express, Capital One, Citi are all ones that we can utilize. Now, there are cons, and I've used Avianca because one of their other sweet spots is flying United within the United States because Avianca considers the United States one region. A lot of airlines will split the United States up into 2 or 3 different regions. So if you can find the space, you can fly on Avianca for 6,500 points one way in economy. So I did use it and it was very beneficial. The cons are is that if you have to contact them on the phone, it is very frustrating. It's very difficult. So it's definitely something to factor in depending upon your how much patience you may have if it's not a very easy redemption that you see on their website. There's high fees for award changes and cancellations. So you do need to really be confident in what you're doing. That's still better than not refundable and not changeable. You just have to pay a fee though. So, but the main thing is no speculation on this as well. This is something that comes up from time to time. Don't speculate and take flexible currency and put it into inflexible currency. So, topic 6 is talking about how Bilt lost American Airlines or will be losing them. I believe that we're looking at June is when that relationship will end. But then they turned around and they talked about Alaska Airlines being their new partner. So as far as what's going on, Bill literally bounced back from not having American Airlines anymore to getting Alaska Airlines. The biggest thing that I would end up saying about American versus Alaska is both of them are very high valued airline miles. Part of it is because they're hard to get. Before the relationship with Bilt, there was no transfer partner to be able to fund to pool miles together. You could only use basically your co-branded credit card that is from Citi or from Barclays. And so it limited the use of them, but you could use those points across one world, which is what organization it's within, to be able to really get a lot out of partners as far as booking partner airlines. Now, obviously, that's going to end in June. Alaska is very similar. Before this relationship, Alaska did not have a regular transfer partner of the Amex, the Citi, the Chase, and the Capital One. You basically only had their one credit card issued by Bank of America to be able to utilize to accumulate points, but they are very valuable as well for partner airlines. And some of the things that I talked about in last week's live stream, ironically enough, because Alaska Airlines is changing up their mileage plan and their sweet spots have changed somewhat because they're now going to be mileage based. But stopovers being at no cost was a big deal. And so Alaska Airlines is a very valuable currency. And to pick them up and almost kind of put us in the same situation where we've now opened up the ability to accumulate points of a valuable airline mile is really great. So that is kind of what we are looking at with this. And so, as I mentioned on here, no prior transfer partner. The only way you could have gotten added to your Alaska Airlines is you could transfer your Marriott Bonvoy points to this, but you would never want to do that. You can't unless you have some ridiculous number of hotel points. You normally would not do that. It's just not good value. Um, and as I mentioned, it's coming at a time when, as we talked about in the live stream, and I'll put a link for that in the comments in the pinned comment that I'll do. So what now? Well, losing American hurts, but it was never enough to reconsider having the card. So if you were a renter, you're still getting great value of the credit card because you're not paying processing fees to get your rent paid using a credit card, getting the points from that credit card, and giving yourself many options of whether you use it for points and miles or for credits. So it was never going to be something that was going to hurt Bilt where you wouldn't want the card, especially if you're a renter. And if you're not a renter, you still have to look at the fact that if you are in the points and miles game, these promotions that they're doing on rent day is unheard of. And so being able to tap into those rewards and with a still very valuable currency is something that you have to look at. And so quickly getting Alaska on board is really showing a commitment to the cardholders that they really are looking to build their transfer partner list into a really strong one, which already it is, even replacing American with Alaska, but they still have Chase. I'm sorry, have Hyatt, and Chase was the only one that had them originally. So that's the big deal for them. Alaska Airline miles are going to be valuable, and if you go back to my live stream, I talk about that program as well as some new sweet spots with the new mileage plan. And so then we'll look at the Alaska Airlines personal credit card because one thing that you may or may not have heard was Bill's relationship with Alaska Airlines is going to have a multiplier of 3x on Alaska Airline miles if you use their credit card, the Alaska Airlines personal credit card, to pay your rent through the Bilt Rewards program, and which there's not anything like it. And that made it very unique to even have another option of building up Alaska points. So we don't know when it's going to start. We've not heard that. And we don't necessarily know if this is going to be just a short-term kind of situation, but I thought it would be good to talk about Alaska Airlines credit card. I actually have their business credit card, which is very similar to the personal one. So right now they have a limited time offer that if you get the card, you'll get 70,000 points plus a companion pass for $3,000 worth of spend in the first 3 months. It does have a $95 annual fee. And as I mentioned, Bilt is looking to is going to be doing 3x on Alaska Miles if you with paying rent on this card through their program. Um, the companion pass, I'll definitely touch on that for a moment. So, what the companion pass is that it is a pass for the main cabin, and that it's essentially you're basically getting the one, and you're getting the second one for essentially free, but you do have to pay some fees. Um, you can What's unique about it is a one-time companion pass. It's not like Southwest for a certain duration. It's a one-time use. But the interesting thing about it is they really leave a lot of options open as far as being able to have a lot of different connecting flights on that one pass, as well as basically having layovers so that you could really hit multiple locations on that same one companion pass and extend it as far as you can. So it's not just something as simple as it doesn't have to be flying from Seattle to the Caribbean. You might fly from Seattle to the East Coast, down to Florida, then to the Caribbean, and then you don't have to go back to where you finished. You don't have to finish off where you started. So that companion pass is has a lot of potential. Um, I still have my companion pass, and I've not used it yet, but I've got to decide on it by May for it. So I will definitely keep you all abreast of what's going on. And we do have another question. So from D. Schaden CC. Schaden, D. Schaden. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. You used your Alaska Miles to book lie flat class seat round trip on Latam to Santiago, Chile for 45,000 points for June. This will be the sixth continent you've flown in lie flats. Congratulations. I have not had the pleasure of a lie flat yet. I'm working on that right now um, on a potentially um, bucket list kind of flight and trip for New Year's. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it off. But um, I've watched YouTube enough to see that that is something I want. So congratulations, and 45,000 points. Great use of the miles. So that is actually a perfect example of what Alaska Miles can do for you. Um, and so I'll touch on some of the benefits of the multipliers. But once again, as I mentioned on even the American Airlines one, you're not normally using these cards as a daily driver. Now, obviously, 3x on Alaska Airline purchases, of course, but 2x on gas, EV charging, gas station, cable streaming services, local transit. It's a very good variety, and it's good, but not necessarily something that you're going to use it for that in most cases. 1x on everything else, and same thing we saw in the American Airlines. First check bag free, no foreign transaction. So when we look at the impact of the 3%, the 3x on rent when it starts, there's a few things to keep in mind. Number one, you will have the processing fee. Bilt is not going to take the hit on the processing fee as they do with their Bilt credit card. So you do have to factor that in. Now, so you might say, so what are you going to do? Well, this is a perfect example where there is not necessarily one choice that you have to make that you have to stick with. There are a few things that may be of benefit to you to utilize this card as paying for rent for a period of time, such as you are in there used to be a time where you would get the companion pass for Alaska Airlines just each year. Now that no longer is the case. You have to have a $6,000 spend each year to get the companion pass. But the rent that you pay if you did it on this credit card will count towards that $6,000 limit. So, depending upon what your rent is, you may say, well, I'll just do 3 months or 6 months worth of rent on it, get the companion pass. It makes it, you may decide that it's worth the 3% cost that you're paying on the processing fee, and then stop using the credit card. Move to the Bilt credit card if you have that one, or to something else. So it's not something that you got to decide on doing and never do it again. It's something to consider, even for a short period of time. And then I would end up saying that as far as in 2024, you can earn 4,000 elite qualifying miles EQMs for every $10,000 worth of spend, up to 20,000 EQMs. Depending upon if you're trying to get status with Alaska Airlines, that may be another reason why you may consider using this card in the 3x value to go towards that. Now, what you accumulate here in 2024 is towards 2025 status. So that's something to keep in mind. And we have another question from Mr. Cool. What are the differences between Alaska Companion Pass and the Southwest? Did I hear that it was just for one-time use? You are correct. You are correct. You did hear correctly. There's not another companion pass that I'm aware of that is like Southwest, where you get it for a duration to use as you see fit with no limits on it. So almost any kind of companion pass that you hear beyond that is going to be a one-time use. And that is the case for Alaska. It's a one-time use. And that's why if you have the credit card, it's one of the reasons you get the credit card if you're considering it is because of the companion pass. And it depends, and you have to kind of factor in where you live and be able to go to places. So where I'm at in the Midwest, I only have one flight that goes out from Alaska, and it only goes to Seattle. Now, I could go to Seattle and I can create that kind of linking that I talked about to extend my companion pass out. So I could go to Seattle, do a layover, then go to Hawaii or to Alaska or both, as long as I could just keep it going. So that was one of the reasons why I hadn't started with the pass yet, because I got to give a lot more thought to it. But yes, you are correct. That is the key difference, is one time versus multiple time use on it, and as well as when it's the Southwest one, all you're paying is the taxes, $11. No, in most cases, if it's round trip, $11.20, give or take, to be able to use that you're paying for that person. And the Alaska Airline ones, you have to look at. There's a little bit more fee to it. The other part of it that to consider is the fact that on Alaska, you can upgrade that companion pass to first class if you want to, at a fee, of course. And so that might be something that you might find beneficial on it, that could be helpful. So, but yes, those are the key differences between the companion passes of each of those two. But something to consider if you are part of the Bilt Rewards, and keep in mind, Bilt Rewards does not require you to have the credit card. So you can be part of Bilt Rewards without the Bilt credit card. I have Bilt Rewards, and I got into it last year when they ran that crazy deal to have a Hyatt Globalist, where you only had to spend 20 nights within, I think, about 8 months or 9 months, and you got Globalist for the full year, I think 14 months. So I've used it for that, and it's a great program, especially if there's no cost to it. So something to definitely keep in mind. So I always kind of leave the situation as far as the way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. And it's something that, and that's from Walt Disney. It's something that I've definitely been trying to do more and more. But that's kind of what I wanted to cover tonight. if anyone has any additional questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them, whether they're on the topics we covered or if it's something different. And if now is not that time, always feel free to leave questions in the comments section. I always look at those and make sure to try to get a response to everybody. So, but if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to. I'll give a minute just in case if there are any for that. I'll have another video, long form video that'll be out on Saturday. This one is going to be on Capital One, just talking about that program for Capital One, their credit cards that they offer, and some of the situations that you may need that I provide some tips on to consider when you're trying to get some of those Capital One cards, especially a Venture X. But it's very interesting on the number of credit cards they have and all, and how diverse it is. And so that's what I end up having in that video that'll come out on Saturday. But if there are no other questions, I can't thank everybody enough for coming to the live stream. And we'll be doing it again next week. I'll be traveling next week, but I am going to go back to Thursday at 7 o'clock for that. And I see that we did get another question in. When will the Alaska rent payment start? I have not seen when they'll start either. They've only done the announcement of the Alaska rent payments. No date yet. I would be interested in seeing if they're going to try to do that once once American Airlines ends in June. Because they may want to give a little bit of time to get American off the books, and as well as people to have the opportunity to get this card from Alaska Airlines to be able to start using it maybe in June. I'm speculating on that, but there's been nothing said as far as when they're going to start. But I think it's going to be pretty soon. And that June date is one that just kind of pops up for me for people to get approved for this card and to start being able to use it maybe in June. So we'll definitely keep an eye out for that, though. And I'll see if anyone has any other additional questions real quick. Uh, no, thank you for joining in your questions. Definitely, this is still new for me. I think it's the third or fourth one, so I really appreciate you all coming in tonight and having questions. And like I said, in the meantime, add any comments if you got any questions on that, and we will pick things back up for next Thursday at 7 o'clock. I believe I got to check that. I will be out in Arizona and Nevada next week. So, but I will make sure to have something up by Monday of when we're going to do it. But definitely, we'll do the live stream while I'm traveling. So, I want to thank everybody. Everybody have a great evening.